Hello, my friends. It is so good to see you. Welcome back for another episode of Being Human with Rory. It is a beautiful day. I've been feeling so many things. I I always am, but today it's just been like this heavier energy, not in a bad way, but in a way of transmutation, transformation, shedding the old, letting the new come in, really stepping into my power. And it's been interesting to see the old stuff trying to grab on while I see the new stuff trying to slip into place. And it allows me to reflect on the world. I've been seeing how I get so caught up in this or that. And then I turn my gaze back inwards and I reflect on myself and I see why I was getting caught up in all of this stuff. And it's so much more subtle. I don't know, fish hooks these days. It's not these big things that really get me caught up. It's just these little tiny things. And I watch it and I allow it, I observe it, and I move through it really without much attachment. They still exist. I'm human. And it's brought this topic to my mind, which is that of mirroring. It is that of the reflection of our inner world shining outward onto the external world, and how we so often blame the external world for our internal ways of being. And I think this is something that is so important to really understand because we don't always realize that the things outside of us are a reflection of whatever's going on in here. And so I want to talk about this topic today because mirroring is something that has changed my life drastically. It has allowed me to stop blaming things outside of myself and start bringing them into myself and seeing that with self-reflection, I can transform my own personal being, which then in turn transforms my reality that I reside in. And yeah, so if you haven't been familiar with mirroring, mirroring is really the opportunity to reflect on ourselves when we are triggered by an external situation or when we are going through something throughout life and maybe it stimulates some sort of overwhelming emotion or even joy or whatever. It's just bringing our reflection back into ourselves and actually asking ourselves, why is this thing outside of me making me feel this way? What about me is being brought to the surface so that way I can understand myself in a deeper fashion and can transmute, transform, modify, shift, let go of whatever I need to be able to come more into alignment with where I want to be. And so mirroring is beautiful because it stops us from blaming the outside situations and it brings the responsibility onto ourselves. And with that, of course, you don't want to allow for or situations to be not good for you. That's where you reflect and you see, oh, maybe I need boundaries, and we'll get to that. But it is important to realize that we are in so much more control of our experiences in life than we realize. And so to dive in, I think that it's so important that we understand the truth behind our reality in the sense that our perception based off what we believe in our minds, what we see, what we think, the ways we are, our perception creates the way we see the world. It does. And so if you are filled with anger, you could probably get angry at things outside of you quite often. But is it those situations actually make you angry, or are you being triggered because there's something within you that needs to be looked at? Could just be stuff playing out that really isn't that big of a deal at all. And when we start to do this, we can really see everybody's living in their own realities. There's an infinite amount of realities, and we all perceive this existence, this life, this way of being differently based off our upbringing, based off the different life scenarios that have played out. Our programming, that is the biggest thing that really shifts the way we see everything. And so when we understand that, we start to then bring our awareness into our minds and see how powerful our mind is when it comes to creating our realities. And it starts when you're, born basically. The first 7 years of your life, you're in this theta brainwave where your mind is just a sponge. It is wide open, basically in this hypnosis type of state where you are absorbing everything that's going on, the interactions with individuals, the, environmental influences, the people that are raising you, your parents or whoever it was that took care of you, all of these different interactions, you are absorbing it to understand how to be a human, really. And so that creates these base programs that allows us to really be programmed subconsciously to be able to navigate through life. And so we go through various situations that stimulate these programs. And, if you are not getting love and affection, then you might have a certain way of being compared to if you did. If you are yelled at all the time instead of supported, you will, grow up to be a different way and vice versa. And so this shows us that our environmental programming really does impact us and it impacts the way we see the world. And so there's the three layers of our mind. It is the conscious mind, which is, me consciously choosing to do the stuff I do. It's like, yes, I am driven to go to the store, whatever. Then there's the subconscious mind, which is that underlying program. It is the belief systems, whether it's limiting beliefs or supporting beliefs. It is all of that underlying structure that is driving us to see how we view ourselves. It is the structure of our identities, the structure of how we view the world based off of all of those programmed beliefs. And so the subconscious mind is running without us having to put any effort into it because it is that like core programming. Think about a machine, a computer. There is that background programming that runs everything up front. And that up front is that conscious mind. So you have the conscious mind, like I said. Then you have the subconscious, which is the programming. Then you have what I call the superconscious. And that is essentially spirit. It is the interconnectedness with everything that can be or is potentially. It is the infinite potential, the quantum field, if you want to call it that. And so this is a really amazing place to be tuned into because when you start to work with the quantum field, you start to realize you can program yourself through that in your subconscious mind to impact your conscious life. And so they all work hand in hand, but if we don't understand how they work, it becomes confusing. And really, we live at the mercy of them running our lives instead of us running them so that we can make our lives what we want. So I'm going to give a good example to be able to dive right in so we can really understand what I mean. And say a good one that everyone gets triggered with is their parents. At least most people do. And, Ram Dass says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your parents. And it's this funny joke that it's like they trigger all of this stuff within you. And it's a great example because it allows us to really hone in on the environmental, situation of where we grew up, the programming, the ways of being that they have been and pushed upon us. And then we get triggered because they're still trying to control us. They're still trying to tell us that they know what's best. And maybe they do, but our response to those things so often becomes this like it's like a nagging or whatever. And so we always get in these arguments and whatnot. I used to when I was young, it was a thing that happened quite often. That it was just like, you're frustrating me, leave me alone, let me be. Now I see it so differently, but so you have these frustrations or whatever that comes up, and we usually lash out, creates this turmoil, right? That argument. But what I want you to do instead with mirroring is to turn inward, is to start to see, why is what they're doing triggering me? This allows you to start to take responsibility for the way you feel instead of blaming someone else for how you feel. And this is cool because we are, like, I guess, programmed in society to not look internally. Everything is external. It's like you're trying to find happiness in all the things you buy, or the medications, or the therapists, or this and that. You're trying to find whatever it may be externally. The love and support you always needed, you're trying to find it in another person instead of turning inward and finding it in yourself. And so we are going to see in the heat of the moment that we are, wow, I'm really triggered. And you turn in and reflect on yourself. Say, why am I really triggered? What is it that is actually triggering me? And this is difficult in the beginning phases because you do have to be brutally honest with yourself, which is beautiful, but it can be hard because it can be almost heartbreaking because you're breaking down the illusions that you've been living in. And this is like the first stage, in my opinion, of really getting through and breaking those illusions down of the mind. And so you start to reflect in, you start to see, like, I have been frustrated with you because you're trying to tell me how to live in a certain way that I don't want to live. And it could even be in this video. I could trigger you by the content that I talk about. But when I trigger you, or when someone triggers you, reflect inward and really ask yourself and say, why does this actually trigger me? Because that's where the gold is. That's where we can learn about ourselves and see that we can pull our power back to ourselves, so that I'm not pulling your power from you because I made you mad. You are in control of your reaction. I'm just talking. I'm just sharing interesting information. It's just phenomena playing out. There is no good or bad. You take it, judge it, see it through your own unique lens based off of your programming to shift it into whatever way you do. Some people might be like, oh my God, I love this. I've never felt a connection like this in my life. Other people are like, I literally hate this guy. Take him off YouTube immediately. He is dangerous. You know, it's all perceptual. And that brings it back to that beginning where everything is through our own perception. It is through our lens based off of what we experience in our life and where our trigger points are or whatever. And so to get back to the programming, because I think that's so important, I got to scooch in my chair here and falling over, is programming is all of the stuff that makes us be who we are, right? And I'm going to try to put this into simple terms so that we can fully understand it, because I don't think a lot of people really realize this to the deepest extent. Every single thing you do is programmed. We're just like machines, except instead of like metal and oil, we are flesh and blood, but both run off of programs. That's just the truth. And so we are being programmed by things all day, every single day. Even by me sharing what I'm sharing is technically programming you. That's the truth. And I'll be transparent. I'm not here to manipulate anyone. I want you to know for yourself. But think about the news. Think about all of this fear mongering, all of this chaos that is constantly going on. What does that do? Is it's programming you into a fear based mindset to align with whatever it is that you're absorbing more and more. And then you follow that. And so if you are watching all this content that's reinforcing a certain way of belief or thinking or living or whatever it is you're watching, all of that is programming you to believe something. And you have to see it's all based off faith. It is. It's I strongly believe this, so I am going to shift my life to be in a way that is in accordance to it. Or it's I strongly disagree with it. So it's still a belief, but it's just going on the opposite way. And so programs are created to keep us safe. It's usually, traumatic instances that took place in life. It is the ways that our parents were, the ways that all of life played out. Even if you were called weird on the playground when you were young, I guarantee you, you shift your entire life without even realizing it to try to show up so you're not weird, so you don't get rejected, so you don't get exiled, so you're able to fit in. This is a way of programming. It is the mind's way of saying, that didn't feel good. I need to adjust and act this way to be able to show up. So that way I feel safe. It is always coming back to safety, the reassurance of survival. And so by doing this mirroring exercise, we can start to witness and see our programming. But it does take time. It takes time to witness yourself, to learn how to be brutally honest, to see through the illusions, and then to get down to the roots of really, I mean, like extremely deep, back in childhood, back, some people even say it's pre this life, it's past lives and everything. You know, genetically, was your mother stressed when you were in the womb? That is programming your nervous system as well. All of these things play out. And so this is where traumas do get passed genetically, because what they went through is passed into you, and then you have to now navigate through it and move through it. This is why people all the time are claiming you got to clear your genetic trauma, your, you know, your lineage. And so the programming runs deep. The mirroring, when we reflect on, why are you triggering me? Why do I feel this way? Why is all of this whatever? When we start asking the questions to ourselves and we go deeper and deeper, because it's usually a few layers of questions, we start to uncover our root programming, and we start to see, wow, these limiting beliefs that I have uncovered are not supporting me. They're actually holding me back and keeping me stuck in a cage. And then, and we'll get into this in another video, you start to reprogram yourself. But first, you use this practice, the mirroring technique, to discover yourself, to see that deep down you have been programmed by all these outside influences without even you realizing it. And once you start to uncover them, you realize, wow, I can actually change them because they don't fulfill me in the ways I want. I want to transform them into something new. And so you just keep going with this practice to uncover yourself deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you start to come in and transform into a consciously created new version of you. And I always say that, you know, the first half of your life, approximately, of course, first half of your life is you building a healthy ego unconsciously. The second half is you realizing that what you have become is not supporting your life and dreams in the way you want it to be. And you go in and consciously, essentially destroy the old version of yourself. That sounds so brutal. And it's not, I mean, it is, and it's not that brutal. But you consciously recreate yourself by implementing new programs, by it's basically taking old habits and implementing new ones, to put it simply. And so I want you to go in. I want you to really reflect on yourself. This is your sign in your journey, if you haven't already, to start to ask the questions about you. Stop blaming external things. Of course, if someone is being dangerous or whatever, if it's not in alignment, you might want to evaluate it. But you'll be able to really see if they're actually being like inappropriate or whatnot, or if it's just you projecting your own inner stuff out and seeing them in a way that maybe they're not even trying to show up, you know? And so often we blow up, get in arguments, we have these blowouts in our friend groups or this and that, and it's because of our own stuff that we haven't healed through, that has been passed throughout our life and has started to be stimulated as programs to protect you. And it builds up and builds up and builds up. You can even see it through, you know, when someone's really judgy, you realize that they're judging themselves more than anything. And you start to reflect on, oh my gosh, everything I've been seeing outside of me is because of what's inside of me. And then you start to shift your energy. And we'll get into that, you know, like I said, in another video. But first is the self-discovery. It is understanding where you're actually at so you know what you're working with. Ram Dass says that the the most incredible thing you can do for me is to work on yourself. What I can do for you is to work on myself. And so it's not about manipulating the outside to be how you want it to be. It's about transforming yourself so the outside just is playing out as it does and you allow it to be, knowing that you're in full control of how you react to it. Because stuff's just happening. And I mean, there's that saying that accept what you cannot control, what you can control, change it. And we're starting to see that through this practice. We're starting to see through the mirroring what we can control, actually, even though maybe before we didn't realize it. And we're starting to accept that we can't control the external world. And we have to adjust what we can, which is ourselves, and allow for everything else to just be what it is. And so, a good kind of closing but final example to really bring this around is, for me, I love being transparent because this is all my own healing practice too. And I share these things because I'm navigating all of this too. Everything in life to me is just the journey. It is the path. And so where I'm currently at is, expanding my coaching business, Inner Evolutions, and getting that out there more and more. And I've been seeing that the biggest thing for me is my own block of being scared of not being good enough, being scared of judgment, being scared of even being seen. And so starting doing these videos, sharing my truth, sharing the ways that I actually believe instead of hiding and just like playing small and manipulating myself to fall into alignment with everybody else. These videos have allowed me to start to come out, to share my true self. So I can learn, because I reflected on myself that I had all of these blocks in me that was preventing me from going out into the world and getting new clients like crazy and everything. And I work with many people, but I'm ready for the next level. Spirit is saying, well, it's time to let go of some more of that energy you're holding on to. And so how do you do that? I see, okay, I'm holding on to this. I got to start to learn to be seen. What do? I start to allow myself to be seen. I practice and I move through it so that I can expand, so that I can step into that new version of myself, even though it's scary. I mean, I'm still scared of judgment to some extent or another, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. It means that I was programmed because someone probably judged me and made me feel bad. And now I have this underlying creation within me saying, don't show your true self because it's dangerous. It's going to hurt if you get rejected. But life is life, and we have to be able to learn to navigate through all of this. So even this is my practice through the mirroring of myself. And I see where I judge myself more than anything in the world because I have this picture perfect mindset of who I have to be based off of how I was raised. I needed to be the best version that was expected of me. And if I wasn't good enough. At least that's how it felt to me. And so now I am allowing myself to be imperfect, to share videos that are not perfect. If I screw it up, I don't start over. I just continue on. If it's not that great, I post it anyway. And I allow myself to be seen as the imperfect perfection of Rory. But I had to reflect on me. It's like, imagine being a social media content creator and you post videos and no one engages in it. And you say it's all their fault. Instead of realizing maybe you're not that good and you need to learn how to show up better so that you can improve. So all this is that self-reflection through external situations to see where we can improve and show up so that we can fall more in alignment with who we want to be. And so the mirroring is so important because it allows you to see where your subconscious beliefs are and allow yourself to transform them once you bring them into your awareness so that you can show up as the person that you want to be. Because we all have that version of ourselves that we want to move towards. And we can't blame the outside world because we're the ones in charge of our lives. Nothing out there is. And so it's really about taking that mindset, out of a victim mindset and saying the external world is influencing me negatively and holding me back and it's horrific, and saying, no, I am in control. And that brings this empowered energy back to yourself that allows for you to take charge and to shift yourself and your life in any way that you desire so that you can build the life that you deserve. And so if this hits home for you, I'm sure it probably does to some extent because it's all of life. Even me, who's been on this path for many years now, I still work with this every day to see where I'm caught up, see where I can move, see where I can expand and let go of. And I want you to implement this in your life, even for a day, even for a week. See what happens, what you start to uncover about yourself that maybe you hadn't seen before. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk about what you're navigating through, comment below. Let's have a dialogue on this because it is impactful work. And it's time to start realizing that the external world is not going to create the life we want. The internal world creates the external, and that is the life that we desire. Whatever that looks like for you, of course. So, like, share, subscribe, do the things, do a little dance, make a little love, whatever. Have fun, explore yourself, uncover who you really are, or at least where you currently are at right now. Because we got to see where we're at so we can learn how to transform, to shift, to show up in a better way, and make this life something freaking beautiful. We all deserve that, including you, especially, because you're freaking awesome. And I am too. And we're all awesome because we're humans and we're here together being human. So I love you. I will see you very soon. And until then, like I said, have fun. I'll see you soon.